Welcome to What the Flick. Ben and Michelle with you. Hello, episode 8, Boasts and Rails of Billions. First of all, this was directed. You see who directed this episode? John Dahl.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And John Dahl has made really 3 of my favorite movies of the 90s. The 3 movies he made for HBO that were early in when HBO hadn't quite found what it was going to do. But Kill Me Again with Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley Kilmer, Red Rock West with Nick Cage and Laura Flynn Boyle, and J.T. Walsh is in that too, and then Last Seduction, which is with Linda Fiorentino, which is as great a modern noir as there is. And all those movies are directed. I mean, they have a style and a look and a feel. And he did Rounders, of course, which is...
Oh, I love Rounders.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
And Jade, which is underrated, also with Linda Fiorentino. But he does mostly television now. And right away, this episode I don't know, it was good. You and I were talking beforehand. You didn't even know that Dahl had directed it, and you were like, it was a really, really well put together episode.
It really was, yeah. It was that I was so psyched about that open that they chose to do. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it felt like it had its own little art groove going on.
It did. And,
it was cool.
And it was really about something, I think. I always, Alonzo, this is usually Alonzo's job. He would always tell us what an episode was about, which I miss because for me, TV still is just, mostly, and then this happened, and then this happened. Oh, that's cool, that happened, right? But this was really about, to me, recklessness and the unwillingness of people in an ordered world to do the right thing. And you saw it with Giamatti with the chair. He sat on it twice. He knows he needs to sit on the chair, right? Yeah. The chair will help him get the chair out. He's throwing the kimchi or whatever that is. He's criticizing everybody else's healthy food choices, right? He wants to eat what he wants, and he wants to play by whatever rules he wants.
Yeah.
And obviously that's true for Damian Lewis, too.
Oh, definitely. Well, and watching his willingness to potentially push off this really ethical character from the case, and not that he did it, but the fact that he even considered it and he was going that route was so surprising.
Well, he didn't do it only because Rob Morrow.
Because he came to his side.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I think not because he came to his side. Rob Morrow, who's the Assistant Attorney General, said, no, if you kick him off the case, we'll just move it to the Eastern District. So it's like, and so Giamatti's like, all right, well, that's the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah, he doesn't want to lose his.
He doesn't want to lose the case. He'd rather keep the guy. And keep. I'm curious how T will react to all this. who had her plate cleaned. But I really loved that these guys won't make the right decision ever. Like they just don't have it in them. And you and I discussed, not really argued, but discussed in the beginning. How I was more on Damian Lewis's side. I'm not really ever on Damian Lewis's side, but I was not with Giamatti for a long time, and you were with him longer. But I assume now you've fully left to some extent. I mean, he is...
I want to say I have, but there's still this part of me that's like, I feel like I'm getting sucked in. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm getting sucked into...
Who is more unethical here? I mean...
I did feel like it was super unethical to leave their contact out to dry. And now, of course, you get to the end and none of that mattered really. So yeah, maybe if he'd made the ethical decision, it would have been the better decision to make ultimately, because that guy had already turncoated regardless.
But you saw how much they struggled, how Brian and Giamatti struggled in the bar with just even drunk guys being guys, even the go-to move of drunk guys. And I've been there like, fuck that guy. Like that's all you can say. You don't have anything more than that. You can't rationalize it. But then they're talking about the pouch. And that guy didn't do anything.
Collateral damage.
They ruined his life, or at least ruined this part of his life.
Knowing what we know at the end, do you think that they did, or do you think he knew all along? Because he knew the other guy was ratting, so does that mean he chose to let him go to...
Who knew the other guy was ratting?
Damian knew, and was working with the undercover guy. So do you think...
So Damian Lewis had to wait... There's a little bit of it's going to make our heads spin, and I'm going to guess without even looking into it that it doesn't totally hold up. So if Damian Lewis is working with Donnie, so they deliberately gave Donnie to the prosecution so that they have a window into what the prosecution is doing.
Yeah.
Right? So they give Donnie to the prosecution, and Donnie's a double agent. So then they also know that, because Donnie tells them that they think that Damian Lewis is onto him. So then what was the point of making Donnie seem exposed?
I don't know at what point he flipped. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
we
That's
don't- we
the
don't- we don't know.
question that
Wait,
I'm.
I
Was he?
assume-
I assume it was always.
Right. I get from that this whole thing was orchestrated.
Yeah.
So they didn't really ever flip Donnie. They were waiting for the prosecution. They put something, they had Donnie do something that would, I mean, that also
Yeah.
suggests that Donnie is literally willing to go to prison for nothing. Or, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
look, maybe he's like, no, he transferred
big
into,
severance.
yeah, I got $20 million transferred into some account for his kids or whatever. And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
look, if I have to do 5 years and I'm going to make that sacrifice, but maybe I won't even have to.
And he was sick of trading at that point, so maybe
Yeah.
it makes sense that he was.
A nice twist
know.
also, I don't want to get sidetracked, that of Donnie being gay.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you just, because again, when we reach the point in storytelling where a character's race or sexual orientation is totally irrelevant, it's just, oh, by the way, this guy's gay. And
Yeah.
the great shows, The Wire did that on a couple of occasions where they'd be like, wait, that guy's gay, but they never revisited it. It was never a thing.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent.
I thought that was nice. But so remind me, if you can remember, because I guess I can't. How did they know? How did the prosecution know that Damian Lewis was on to Donnie? Oh, because
Because of the meetings, I think, because they kept bringing him into the room.
I just
and-
remembered the secret bad evil lawyer got a janitor in there.
Oh yeah.
So the
they
janitor
knew.
so
he knew.
presumably the secret lawyer doesn't even know, right? Because otherwise his conversation of
Yeah.
we got a big problem right now, unless you were to believe that there was a conversation between Damian Lewis and Donnie that we didn't see where Damian Lewis flipped him.
What I'm assuming is that Damian Lewis knew all along, but maybe his guy underneath him who got that janitor into
but
the
that
space,
guy doesn't.
that he didn't know.
Right.
That
So-
it's only Damian who knows these things at this point.
So when Damian,
That's my assumption.
so then Damian Lewis is told that they got Donnie, which he of course would already have known.
Yep.
Then what's the point of making it seem like Damian Lewis is sweating Donnie?
I think he's letting everything below him play out so that it seems realistic. Do you know what I mean?
Damian Lewis
it
had to
seems-
react because his own investigator found out the thing that he planted.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of buy that he would do that because he's operating on such a higher
yes, okay.
level.
So he has to
Maybe.
then does Damian Lewis, he's so smart that he knows they're going to try to save this guy by sacrificing somebody else. So I'm going to do it.
So he's going to let him go. Yeah, that's the part that surprised me because he seemed like such an asset. But I wonder if he had other motivation for wanting him not to be there.
Or he's buying it, or the little trick they played with the SEC thing. But my guess is if Damian Lewis is playing this game 9 levels above,
Yep.
as soon as he saw the SEC thing, he thought, they planted this there and they want me to see this. And I guess it suits Damian Lewis to have Giamatti's office think that he's doing exactly what they want. They think they're pulling Damian Lewis's strings, but he has the big trump card. Okay.
Exactly.
Ooh, man, that's a tough one to get through, but okay, good.
It's a lot, but I don't know if the only thing that I'm wondering about is like now they've fired this guy. How is he going? Because we know how disgruntled the other gentleman they fired early on was. Like he was so disgruntled. Now you've got this guy. Do you think he's building up that information? Do you think he's somehow tracking these SEC files and going to throw it back in their face that they planted it? Is that a chance?
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that he's, who knows what he's doing right now. But it is certainly intriguing. And that conversation with when Donnie pulled up there and had the exchange of information, I was like, that doesn't look like Brian. And then you're like, oh my God. I wasn't even really paying attention to the show at that point. Like it had been an emotional show and it was long too.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining about that, but I was sort of like, all right, we're at the end. I'm sitting back. Okay, the last couple of minutes, and oh wait, Jesus.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
Your whole episode changed.
Yeah, that's right.
What about Maggie Siff's character and the fact that she starts out by lying to him about not having this high-paying job. And what is that whole play? Like a really
She lies to him
interesting play.
about not having this high-paying job offer. Right.
Exactly. She has another high-paying job offer on the table, but she says, no, it's only for this tiny amount of money, and she gets him to go and
Oh, that's
do
right.
this interview.
She did not. She was not honest. That obvious. And I mean, that part I didn't love that conversation because one, it felt it wasn't a realistic conversation between married people. Like she wouldn't say, you know, what about you if you get the job at the place you've always wanted? Like they're worried somebody's listening.
Yeah.
You know, they'd use the names. So that was done for dramatic purposes that I thought took us out of the moment. I think that we had that conversation felt TV'd to me, which has happened a few times. If I have any criticism of the show, it's some TV'd moments where they, you know, the stuff that the shows like The Wire never did. They were like, you're confused. Go ahead, be confused. Now, and nobody watched The Wire, so that might be maybe they're onto something. But that I didn't love that and I even forgot that of course she is lying because she does have a potential, but also she's leaving out that the headhunter wants to sleep with her.
Yeah. I wasn't as surprised that she left that out because I felt like that's probably an awkward conversation. But the fact that although they do seem to tell each other everything, now I'm really questioning that.
Eventually.
Because
and they don't tell each other everything. They have an acceptable level of intimacy for them. I'm not even sure it's a bad level, but it is their level. And of course they have to, given their positions, they have to.
And she played him into that. She played him into that interview.
Did. And also
and
it was nice at the end. It was a very intimate moment at the end where she knew that he'd turn it down, but that she wanted him to put himself out there for him to receive the feedback of how coveted and how wanted he is.
Yep.
That was nice. And then he has this incredibly intimate moment about how he hates their relationship.
Yeah.
And that felt super honest.
Yeah, I totally actually respected that.
Yeah, totally.
Because I don't know how you couldn't.
Right.
And be in his position. Like I was worried about how she would handle it, and she's always the adult in the room, isn't she? I mean,
yes,
like she is totally even keel. And it's almost like she didn't even
except for maybe one flaw, which maybe the show is never going to be able. They'll have to succeed in spite of it. Like she has to quit that job.
Yeah, it seems to me like she does.
And there's no way that she can only get a job as a public aide. I mean, she's been working she's at X. She can get a job somewhere else. Maybe it's not going to pay her $3.5 million a year or whatever he pays her, and she'll have to make $1 million. But their kids can still go to that school.
Yeah.
But your husband is prosecuting him, and you're working there. It is untenable. And yes, the careers theoretically in a marriage, everything is equal. He's the U.S. attorney. Like his job wins.
I don't know that she thinks that though, because she's making so much more bank.
I get it, but she can make it somewhere else. She can do the thing somewhere else. You can't go be the U.S. attorney in Cincinnati. Like, you know, it's like he's the U.S. attorney for New York. This is a big job. This is like in fact, when he said the job you've always wanted, I was like, wait, that's governor.
Yeah.
You know, not working at Horvath, Minkston, and Mankiewicz or whatever Boley, Jones, and Crawford. You know, so whatever the hell it was. By the way, it was Horvath.
Horvath.
Which is Hannah Horvath on Girls.
Oh, really? Oh, what crazy tiny world.
Well, look at that. Hannah became a lawyer. All right, anyway.
I don't think that firm would be nearly as effective, though.
I don't think so. What else will we... Oh, and then, of course, the 9/11 story breaks.
Oh, man.
And I think that considering the horribleness of the story, I think Damian Lewis, you know, he's got Wags and his lawyer and his PR woman. They're all telling him to do these things. And he's like, no. It's true.
Yeah, I did respect him for wanting to be honest. I don't really respect him knowing that he did that.
But what is really, let's have a little ethical conversation about it. Like, you're not there, not for an evil reason, you didn't know it was coming. They're firing you, so you're meeting with your lawyer, right? Then this terrible thing happens. When the first plane hits, if you're to believe the nature of events, he instantly thought, presumably because those people maybe knew it was a real jetliner and not a private plane.
Yeah.
So he shorts the airlines. Then he finds out, even if the second plane hits, and you know you should short the airlines, if unless they're firm took a hit from the plane, you still think until the buildings collapse that you're going to get those, that many of those people are getting out.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
He didn't know.
So he's saying on a couple, I can make $750 million with a couple of phone calls, and this is, everybody might live.
I think it's,
you know,
it's
or many people.
callous. Yeah, I think it's callous, not evil. I get it, and I get that that's what he does. And I really don't buy the defense that, oh, well, I'm going to need to take care of these people, so I need that money.
That was his one weakness.
That was
that was his one weakness. He should have just left it at, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I saw a way for her to make $750 million in a day.
And that's what
so
he
I
does.
did it. And then if he just changed that back answer to, and then as it turns out, those families needed that money.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. It worked out for the best.
Worked out for the best, but yeah, I profited off a terrible situation, but I didn't know how terrible it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what else to do. This is my job.
And if you thought it was an
Which
accident,
is what Maggie
I
Siff
could,
said, sort of,
yeah.
again, being the adult in the room.
Oh yeah, and she's totally behind him, which is what makes that whole thing even more interesting. And yeah, I just think it speaks to what a ferocious character he is.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And which would also be a guy who saw the way, now we're seeing with his Machiavellian play of Donnie against Rhodes's office, we see that scene where he recounted that wonderful scene where he knew everyone and who had the cell phone.
Yeah.
That like he sees everything. This guy sees big picture, so
Yeah.
so he might turn Donnie deliberately, like he's ahead of the game, and he hasn't told clearly anyone. He's told Donnie. Wags doesn't know.
Yep. And that means that kind of blew my mind because I'd been operating under this assumption that he was less trusted. But then at that point you realize, oh no, he's more trusted. They've led me along this path.
Did you watch Deadwood?
No, I didn't.
This oddly reminds me of Deadwood.
Really?
Where we get the Al Swearingen character, the guy who said, every word was MFer, right? And then you got Tim Oliphant, who's the marshal. And Oliphant's great looking. He looks great in the hat, and he's got this cool sense of Western justice. And he helped a guy who was about to be lynched so that he could take him to town to be lynched properly. But he was following. And Swearingen is running girls and is killing people, and then slowly, midway through the first season, you're like, wait a minute. Swearingen is the ethical guy. Swearingen is the guy following a set of rules that I can understand, and Oliphant is angry and ambitious, and the same thing is happening here.
But do you think? I wanted to say something about Millen Ackerman too. What that story did to her is what I'm the most worried about.
Right.
I see their relationship growing more strained really quickly.
Sure, she was good with them in that fight.
Yeah.
She was like, don't handle me. This is a change of circumstances on the ground.
Yeah. But her sister now.
Now her sister, right.
That's going to be really tough. And knowing she had family and
I'm going to guess that they deliberately didn't say the brother's name because that could be revealing. Like that first I thought that was, again, some sort of somewhat awkward writing.
Yeah.
But when she says they didn't, he didn't even know me. He didn't even know me or our brother.
Yeah.
So it's like she's, in that moment, she can't even say Stephen.
Yeah.
Or she can't even say his name. So then maybe that's actually fairly brilliant writing there.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm interested to see what happens with her. But so to what you're saying, do you think as a citizen, knowing that, do you want them to win more or do you want them to be perfectly ethical? I guess that's my question. And it's almost like we talk about Better Call Saul too. It's like, what do you ultimately
who pays
want?
Matters. Like if you're gonna, I get it. You can't play nice completely. You can't be the incredibly sharp assistant's father, whatever that girl's name is. Like, what's her name?
The business. I don't remember his name, but he was great.
He was great. She's great.
Yeah.
Like,
I love her
they
character.
totally need to get together.
Yeah.
They're going to.
Oh, that was awkward, by the way. The FBI girl, with her
it's so
look
great.
back,
It's so great. And in some ways, that FBI girl, and she's so beautiful, but she is so. But when they put her in the way those scenes are shot, she's like wearing man's clothes, and she's instantly becomes this truly beautiful woman who seems really cool, becomes frumpy with this sort of, curvy vivaciousness of curvy voluptuousness of of the black woman, you know.
Yeah.
And there's
they're boxing her out.
right,
pretty
totally.
intensely.
They're totally boxing her out, and it's so and like it's crazy. Anyway, it's really well orchestrated, really well shot.
Maybe they'll miscongeniality her.
So you can't be right. You can't be the dad though.
Yeah.
Like I get that you know they're fighting to win, but you can't sacrifice an innocent person.
No, totally.
You know, so they went too far. I mean, I guess you know what would happen is okay, we lost this insider, and now we'll have to
Just keep going and
keep going, try and get another one. And
that's true. And I don't like the timeline they're on. I think that that's hurting their ethics. Is how quickly they're trying to get it done by a certain time. He
Right.
said, within a week, we need this
Yeah.
at this point. Like you would hope that they would be willing to follow this as long as they need to follow it and have
Yeah.
some patience and,
and some
build
of
a
that
good case.
some of that may be the nature of having to conform to a
TV
storyline
show,
they're telling
yes.
us. But I hear you. Yes, it does seem you know that when you rush, you're going to cut more corners.
Yeah, it seems overzealous. And maybe that wouldn't happen in real life, but when I think of it in those terms, I'm like, to build a good case, it seems like if you took the time.
And they were right in a sense that I mean their best argument for sacrificing Pouch was he's a trader who works at a dirty shop and the shop was going down anyway.
Yeah.
He might, in a sense, he might be better. He might be
may.
better off.
Maybe
but-
not. I'll never get another job again. But I don't know that
I
you
think
would
you will if
anyways.
you got fired from the place the 4 weeks before it went down. You'd be like, yeah, he fired me for being too ethical. Like you might
Yeah.
actually be safe from not being there when it collapses.
You're totally right. Because that would make it, well, and especially if he said, no, you know, I found out they were corrupt and, you know, he could come out of that.
It's
looking
possible,
pretty
but
decent,
that said,
maybe.
those are all moral justifications for firing an innocent man.
But that is the part I will say. He's not innocent. And you know he knew about that stuff too.
We don't know.
You know
I don't know. I think
'cause they showed it early on.
He knows some
He
stuff,
was one
yes.
of those people
Yeah.
who was like
But
way
they don't know
in
that.
it.
Like you're playing with fire. You start messing around with people's lives who aren't the subject of your meaningful investigation. I don't know. Does he kill himself? Does he? You know, you don't know.
That would be,
know,
that
it
would be
doesn't-
tragic.
So anyway, fascinating, good stuff.
Such a good show.
It was a great episode. Really, really great episode. All right, thanks, Michelle. Back next. I think there are 12 episodes, so we got 4 left. We're 2/3 of the way done. Season 1 of Billions. Thanks for watching, everybody.